Have you ever felt like life took everything from you, leaving you with nothing but despair? What if I told you that those moments, when everything seems lost, are often the very moments that lead to something greater? Let me tell you a story that might change your perspective. In a dense, ancient forest, a young man stumbled upon a sage. His face was streaked with tears, his body trembling with sorrow. He fell to his knees and cried out, "I've lost everything." His voice cracked as he continued, "Thieves attacked me in the forest. They took all my belongings. I have nothing left. How can this be fair?" The sage, calm and serene as the morning sun, smiled gently and placed a hand on the young man's shoulder. "Do not worry, my child. Whatever happens, happens for a reason." The young man, his heart aching with grief, looked up in disbelief. "How can you say that? Losing everything. How is that for a good reason?" The sage nodded thoughtfully and said, "Let me tell you a story." The sage began his tale. Long ago, in a small village surrounded by rivers, there lived a poor farmer. He had a tiny house and just enough grain to get by through the season. But despite their modest means, the farmer, his wife, and their son were content. Then, one year, disaster struck. A flood, so fierce and sudden, swept through the village. It destroyed everything: homes, animals, crops, and livelihoods. The farmer lost everything in an instant. His hands covered his face as he sat in despair. "How will we survive now? We have nothing left." But the farmer's young son, full of hope and optimism, spoke softly. "Father, don't worry. Whatever happens, happens for a reason." The farmer, consumed by grief and anger, snapped, "How dare you say that? We've lost everything. This is the end." In his sorrow, he pushed his son out of the house and shouted, "Leave! You are no longer my son." The boy, heartbroken and in tears, left without a word. As the hours passed, the father began to regret his harsh actions. "What have I done?" he thought. But it was too late. The weeks passed slowly. The farmer and his wife struggled to rebuild their lives from nothing. Eventually, the farmer's wife suggested, "Why don't you go to the city to find work? We might start again there." The farmer, desperate, set out for the city. He knocked on countless doors, but one after another, he was turned away. He was ready to give up when, at the last moment, a kind merchant took pity on him and offered him work and a place to stay. Years passed. The farmer worked hard, building a new life. One evening, there was a knock at the door. The farmer opened it, and to his astonishment, there stood his son. Now a grown man, he held a bag full of riches. "Father," his son said with a warm smile, "I have come to bring you and mother to live with me. I've built a successful business, and now I have a new home for us." The farmer stood frozen in shock, his mind racing. "How did this happen?" he asked, his voice trembling. His son smiled and replied, "After you sent me away, I went to the city. At first it was hard, but I found work and learned about business. Over time, I built my own company. If you hadn't sent me away, none of this would have happened." The sage smiled as he finished his story. He looked at the young man and said, "Do you understand now? Sometimes life takes away what we think we need, only to give us something better." The young man, still confused, looked down. "But I've lost everything. How is this good for me?" The sage smiled and handed the young man a small, shiny stone. "Take this," he said. "It is a philosopher's stone, a treasure of immense value. If you had not lost everything, you would never have met me. You would never have received this stone, which can change your life." The young man looked at the stone in his hand, and for the first time, a sense of hope began to stir within him. This was no ordinary stone. It held the promise of a new beginning. And so, the young man left the forest, no longer burdened by sorrow. The loss he had experienced was no longer a wound. It was the turning point of his journey. Life can be unpredictable, and sometimes, when it feels like everything is falling apart, it may actually be falling into place. The hardships we face often make room for something greater, something better. So, the next time life knocks you down, remember, what if this is all happening for a reason? What seems like the worst moment could be laying the foundation for something extraordinary. Trust the process, and you may just find that the most difficult chapters lead to the most beautiful endings. If this story inspired you, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more amazing content. Hit the bell icon so you never miss an upload. Your support keeps us motivated to bring you more powerful stories.